Go Knights go! 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 Well, hello hockey fans out there, and hello London Knight fans. Welcome once again to another show this week, Knights This Week, with your host and super fan and Santa hat fan, Jason Banks, coming at you. And the best of the holiday season to all of you out there. I am sporting my Santa Christmas hat. It's that time of year. It's time to start wearing the Santa Christmas hat. So I wanted to wear that as part of my show today. So best of season to all of you out there. And this could be, actually we probably will have one more before Christmas show. But we're getting close to it, so let's have fun with it. Okay, so welcome to another show. This is Knights This Week, and this week we got 3 games to cap up, and you know what? It's all good news coming out of these games, so that's great to hear. Pretty good news coming out of Knightsland this week, if you're a Knights fan. So the Knights are doing pretty good. So let's get to find out what's going on with the Knights this week. We can tell you 3 games in Knights this week. It all starts off last weekend, a week ago Friday, with a game at Budweiser Gardens here in the forest city of London, Ontario, where the London Knights were taking on the Peterborough Petes. Peterborough, an interesting team because many people thought they would be the class of that conference this year. They had such a great year last year, the Petes. But kind of like Owen Sound in the West, are just kind of floating around. They're okay, but they're not certainly up near the top. They're not in the CHL top 10 rankings. So that's what's going on with that. So, as I said, last Friday they opened up against the Petes. Then they played 2 games against a very familiar foe, a division rival, and that rivalry's just amped up in the last 3-4 years with the good teams at London and the Erie Otters. Yeah, I don't got my sound effect, but let's just pretend I'm an otter there. So the Otters and London have had quite the rivalry in the last 4 years. Of course, 2 years ago, London beat Erie in the conference final en route to the Memorial Cup Championship. Last year, they met in the second round of the playoffs, and Erie beat London in a very tough 7-game series en route to their OHL Championship. So, a big rivalry between those two. But that's what we got for this week here in Knights This Week. So let's get to these games, shall we? Starting with a week ago Friday, where your London Knights were entertaining the Peterborough Petes here at Budweiser Gardens. So let's go to that one and find out what happened in this one, shall we? Bringing it up on the screen. All right, here we go. So, pardon me, I just need to bring up the game summary here. So that needs to be done. Here we go. Okay. So a pretty evenly matched game between these two clubs, actually, it ended up being. And let's see how this game starts. What happens first in this game? Well, what happens first is the London Knights are the first team to get a goal. And that coming off the stick of Alec Regula. That's only his 3rd goal of the season. Alec Regula, his 3rd from Robert Thomas and Sam Milicic at the 16:20 mark at the first. The only goal in that opening period to give the Knights a 1-0 lead after 1 period of play. Shots 7-6 in favor of your London Knights. So a very even, definitely a very even first period with that first period. Let's jump to the second now, where we had 2 goals in the second. And Peterborough would tie it. Almost at the halfway point, 9:26, Logan DeNoble. Unassisted. It was a complete also effort on his part. Pete's killing a penalty. He got the puck, went up the ice with it, and scored his 15th goal of the season. A shorthanded goal at 9:26 to tie the game at that point. But then, at 15 minutes at the second period, we saw one of the most exciting plays you can see in hockey, and that is a penalty shot. Yes! The Knights were awarded a penalty shot. And not only was it a penalty shot, the Knights were already on the power play at that point. So, on the power play, and then they get awarded a penalty shot. And Max Jones is the one that got was set up for the shot. And he did not disappoint as he would go in, slide it past the goaltender at the 15-minute mark of the second, his 16th goal of the season. What a great... Max Jones is rounding out to a great player. I think you've got to give him kudos for how he's been performing this season. Most likely his last season in a London Knight uniform, because I'm sure he'll be moving up next year. He is just too good to be in juniors next year. His 16th of the season made it 2-1 at that point. 2-1 after 2. Even though the Petes did own the shots in that period by a margin of 15-10. Let's go to the third period now. So the London Knights up 2-1. What happens in the third? Quite a few goals. At 5:12, the Petes came right back, just like they did after being down by 1 earlier. Came right back to tie it. Zach Gallant, his 8th goal of the season on a power play at 5:12, made it 2-2. But then, Captain, where are you, Captain? Where's the captain? Oh, there he is. Captain Robert Thomas, his 19th goal of the season on a power play as well. So special teams playing a pivotal role in this game. 9:04 at the third. Power play goal from Evan Bouchard, Sam Miletich to Robert Thomas. Made it 3-2. So the Knights would go into the third with that 3-2 lead. They would hold it for all the third period pretty much. But then a really, really tough break for the London Knights. This is what I call a tough break. And it what is that? Yeah. It was a tough break. That's tough. As London Knights were ready to play their song to celebrate a win, but the Peterborough Petes, well, first of all, a very questionable offside call on the London Knights, and an offside that was a very dangerous scoring chance. Who knows if that stayed, if they had called that onside, the Knights might have actually scored a goal on that because the Petes had their goalie pulled, might have iced it. But they get called for a kind of questionable offside call. And then, with just 6 seconds left in the third period, the Petes would tie it up. Matthew Timms, his very first goal of the season at 19:54, took the air out of Budweiser Gardens. A very tough goal to give up. Tied the game at 3. So this game would need extra time to decide who would win it. Shots in the third were 12-12, so another pretty even period, but 3-3 after full-time play here at Budweiser Gardens. You know what? The Knights didn't care about that goal. They really didn't care because very quickly in the overtime, they just took it to the Petes, and they didn't care. It only took them 50 seconds, when at 50 seconds, the blue liner, the ever-creative offensive Evan Bouchard jumps into the play, and he puts the puck in the net, his 10th goal of the season, from Cliff Pooh at 50 seconds of overtime. So what could have been a very disappointing, tough break loss for the Knights ended up being an overtime victory, as the Knights would get those 2 points still in overtime, and Evan Bouchard was the game hero in overtime as your London Knights defeat the Peterborough Petes 4-3 in this one. Pretty solid game by both clubs. Tough break at the end, but the Knights would get that winning goal in overtime. 3 stars were all London Knights. What? How does that work in a close game like this? I don't get that. But they were. They were all from your London Knights. The 3rd star, the captain, Robert Thomas. Again, every game this kid comes out and plays, every game this kid usually puts up points. He is one heck of a player. And like Max Jones, I think there's a good shot he won't be back next year. He almost made St. Louis this year. So Robert Thomas III, the game hero, gets the 2nd nod for game star, Evan Bouchard. 1st star, number 49, Max Jones. Out of these 3 players, 2 of them are now no longer with the Knights for a short time as they are off to the World Juniors. Thomas and Jones are. Bouchard is still playing over the World Juniors with the Knights. So that was the first game in Knights this week. So a great game there at Budweiser Gardens. And show your muscle there, Knights. Yeah. 4-3 victory for the Knights in overtime. Let's go to the second game on Knights this week. Happened Sunday at Budweiser Gardens when the Erie Otters came into town to face the London Knights. Now, this matchup, as I said, in previous years was a pretty big matchup. This year, not so much. Erie Otters are last place in the division. They are not that strong this year. Not a surprise to a lot of people. Heck, they had 4 seasons in a row where they had 50 wins and 100 plus points. That is tough to do in junior hockey. Not even the London Knights in all their great years have done that. So obviously, probably they lost a lot of players. A tail off was expected, and that's what's happening. But let's go to this one, Sunday afternoon game at Budweiser Gardens, and we have this was kind of a really weird game. Not a lot of shots. The shots are very low. But nevertheless, the shots, the London Knights made the most of their shots, and the Erie Otters didn't really. Let's put it that way. First period was scoreless in this one. Neither team was able to find the net in this one, as no team scored. The shots were 8-5 in favor of the Otters after 1 period of play in this one. And we go to the second, where our action kind of gets going finally with some goals. And the London Knights were the first to get a goal at 7:21. Cliff Pugh, his 14th goal of the season, gives the Knights the early 1-0 lead. Erie would tie it at 10:35 of the second. We had a ton of goals in the second, a ton of them. 10:35, Kyle Maskovich got his 15th of the season. It was a power play goal. Tied it up at 1. A couple minutes later, Knights go back ahead. Sam Miletich with his 8th goal of the season from Max Jones and Billy Moscow. Billy Moscow, pretty young, talented kid himself. 12:45 of the second, puts the Knights back ahead. Then 2 goals near the end of the second, actually. Then the Knights get another one at 17:50 when Andrew Parrott, yes, Andrew Parrott gets his first goal of the season. His first goal in the OHL from Max Jones and Cliff Pugh. Andrew Parrott, congratulations, buddy. Yeah, that's good. Let's pull out the confetti for Andrew Parrott. That was awesome. He gets his first goal in the OHL. Put the Knights up 3-1. Just 15 seconds left in the second, though. Erie on a power play, they score. Ivan Lodnia, his 16th goal of the season, made it 3-2. But never fret, never fret. 3-2 after 2 periods of play. The London Knights are in the lead. shots in that second period, 11-10 in favor of the Knights. So not a lot of shots in that period either. Let's go to the third, and it's all Knights in the third. All London Knights. Starting with Max Jones with his 17th goal of the season at 1:48. Very early goal, made it 4-2. Max Jones again at 8:55. His 18th goal of the season from Cliff Pu and Robert Thomas made it 5-2. And then at 12:56, a power play for the London Knights, and 20. Somebody hit the 20-goal mark at 12:56, none other than the captain, Robert Thomas. So 20 goals for Robert Thomas. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Way to go, buddy. Robert Thomas, you are having a fantastic season. And good luck in the World Juniors. Though, official word is out that they haven't made their official announcement about who made the team yet. Should be coming later tonight. But I would think that he should be a pretty solid bet for making that team. But one never knows with Team Canada, right? So 6-2 was the final in this one as the London Knights defeat the Erie Otters. And the London Knights, after some tough games against the rest of the Eastern Conference, get a couple wins here to start off Knights this week. So this was the beginning of a home-and-home series with the Erie Otters, as on just past Tuesday, London would go back to Erie. So let's see what happens in this one. And this one is a bit of a tough one for the Knights to begin with. But the Knights showed their resilience and they battle pretty tough in this one. Do you remember that the Knights started this season 1-8-1? They were absolutely brutal to start this season, but since then they have been on quite a tear. I think they've been about 12 games above 500. They actually, this is Mike Wilner who brought this up in this game. They actually have about the same record in the last 20 games as the Sarnia Sting do. So that's pretty good. And an interesting article that came out just yesterday that the London Knights are knocking on the door of fourth. So, they're right there. After being last place to start the season, they got a shot to get into fourth, possibly. Probably not going to get any higher than fourth the way the standings are this year, because Sarnia and Sault Ste. Marie are your two teams that are just standing above everybody right now. They would be 1 and 3 because Kitchener leading the division would be 2 right now. Possibly, I guess you could catch Kitchener, but don't think the London Knights are going to catch up to the likes of Sarnia and Sault Ste. Marie. But anyway, tough start to begin this game because Erie would get the first 2 goals in the first period. Let's find out who got these goals. Kyle Maskovich, his 16th goal of the season at 3:19. And then at 7:51, Gerald Podnubny. Did I say that right? Did I just butcher his name? I don't know. Podnubny got his 9th goal of the season at 7:51. Erie leads 2-0 after 1 period of play. Shots were pretty even. The shots were 14-12 for Erie in that first period. Second period, the London Knights would get one of those goals back when Cole Timken got his 3rd goal of the season. It's nice to see these little guys chipping in now in this game. Cole Timken from Alex Turco and Cliff Pu. And then at 8:40, Liam Foudy got a goal, his 4th goal of the season from Evan Bouchard and Tyler Rollo at 8:40. So that was the game-tying goal right there by Liam Foudy. Now the shots in the second period in this game were in favor of Erie, 13-9, but The third period was all London Knights. Every bit of it. 16-5 the shots in the third. They were all over the Erie Otters in that third period, and they were rewarded for that tying goal. So another overtime game here coming at you on Knights this week, just like against the Petes on Friday. And you know what? Maybe the strategy is to get this guy the puck every time they go to overtime, because he seems to have a knack to get the overtime winner every time they go to overtime. And that is the offensive defenseman, Evan Bouchard. Yes, Evan Bouchard at 3:28 scores his 11th goal of the season on a beautiful setup by Sam Miletich. And at 3:28 of overtime, they score and win the game over the Erie Otters. So the London Knights defeat them 3-2 in Erie Insurance Arena. So a good comeback for the London Knights. And again, they've won 3 in a row now. That's 3 in a row for the London Knights. And some good solid play by them. 2 of the 3 stars came from your London Knights. The third star was Joseph Raymakers. He had a great game. Erie put 35 shots on net. He stopped every one of them except 2. So Joseph Raymakers, the third star of the game. Joseph Raymakers could be honestly, he could be the difference maker for the Knights this year, because ever since they've gotten him, they've just been that much better. Kyle Maskovich was the second star from the Erie Otters. And the first star, the game hero, the winning goal in overtime, Evan Bouchard. So a great game again from Bouchard. Kambushi. I think that's a good name for him. Evan Bouchard, a solid player for the London Knights. So, 3 games for the Knights and Knights this week. 3 wins for the London Knights this week. Wow. Great job, Knights. So that's where we are with the games. Now, some news. Not much news, really, but the World Juniors are getting started. They are starting exhibition games. And there are 2 London Knights with the World Juniors, Robert Thomas and Alex Vermitten. They're expected to make the final roster announcement later today. So we'll see if those 2 young fellows' names are on that roster. But I would suspect Robert Thomas would definitely be there. Alex Vermitten, I don't know, but I think they should both be there. So we'll see. And of course, Max Jones is with the U.S. camp for, and I would suspect that he'll probably make that team too. And a big news, the big one is Victor Mete has been loaned to the World Juniors by the Montreal Canadiens. So he is with them. And again, I expect him to make the team as well. Now, lots of the biggest thing about this whole thing is it's just raised up in the air because Victor Mete played a lot when the season started. And now in the last 10 games or so, he has sat out 2 or 3 games. His ice time has gone from here down to here, so it's diminished. And obviously, how often do you see NHL clubs loan players to the World Juniors? Not very often. They don't like to do that. So it leads to speculation about where Mr. Mete is going to be after the World Juniors are over. And, there's no issue at all with Montreal sending him back to London. They can do that. And there is a lot of speculation that could be what happens to him. But time will tell. There's also another interesting story that just came out today that I just saw on TSN. And that story being Victor Mete being considered for the Canadian Olympic team in Pyeongchang, South Korea. Isn't that an interesting one? But the article says if he goes back to Montreal and plays the rest of the season there, then he will not be going to the Olympics, because obviously that's the way it is this year. The NHL is not going to the Olympics. That was a decision that was already made quite a while ago. However, if he is sent back to the London Knights, there is a possibility that he could go to the Olympics, depending on how the Canadian Hockey League, what decision they come up with allowing some players from the Canadian Hockey League to go to the Olympics. So very interesting, isn't it? Certainly, I think we'd love to have him back here in London, because he would just elevate us even that much higher, just him being there back on the blue line. But I'm not Montreal's GM. I don't make those decisions. But an interesting development nevertheless. And I think it would kind of suck too if he gets sent back to London only to get picked to go to the Olympics, and then we lose him for, 3 weeks anyway. So yeah, interesting news. Always going around the circuit with Victor Mete. It's very interesting. If you want my opinion, this is my opinion. I may be wrong, but I really think that Victor Mete is going to be back here with London after the World Juniors. Obviously, when his ice time's been diminishing, and obviously they're loaning him to the World Juniors, so it's not like it's not like they're depending on him in that lineup, really. So I have a feeling he'll be back here in London after the World Juniors, but we shall see. Okay, let's find out now about where we sit with standings. Let's go to that, shall we? So let's bring this up. I'm going to bring up the standings for you and see, starting off with your London Knights. Let's see how they are doing now. And as I said, I've already alluded to this, that the London Knights are that close to 4th place right now. So considering they were 10th in the conference when the season started, they're not that far from 4th now. That's pretty good. Goes to show you how solid the London Knights have been playing since that horrible start. So let's go to that now, the standings here. So in the Knights division, the team on top remains the Kitchener Rangers. They're doing pretty good. However, they're not exactly, they're okay, but I wouldn't put them up on the level of Sault Ste. Marie or Sarnia at this point. Kitchener is leading the division with a record of 20-10-2 for 42 points. Now, where are the Knights in the standings? Well, here are the Knights. The Knights right now come into this week with a record of 16 wins, 13 losses, 2 overtime losses, 34 points. They've actually given up the fewest amount of goals in their division, 95. So, very intriguing to say the least. But anyway, there's where the London Knights are, 16-13-2 for 34 points. They're 1 point behind Guelph. So Guelph has 35 points, and they are 8 points behind Kitchener. However, they do have a game in hand on Kitchener too, so that comes into play as well. The Windsor Spitfires have 37 points, so Windsor is only 3 points ahead of the London Knights, so definitely not out of the question to catch them. So a lot of close teams in the standings, that's for sure. And really, the London Knights could finish as high as 4th. They could finish possibly an outside shot of catching Kitchener too. But the two teams that are right up there still are the Soo Greyhounds with 56 points and Sarnia with 50. So 56-50. London has 34. There is no chance that London is going to catch either one of those two teams. So as I said, the highest that the Knights could probably finish this year is 4th or 2nd if they can catch Kitchener. So I've given you a little bit of look at their conference. What's going on in the Eastern Conference? Well, in the Eastern Conference, the Hamilton Bulldogs are leading that conference with a pretty good record. 19 wins, 7 losses, 3 overtime losses, 3 shootout losses, for 44 points. So good job, Hamilton. This is their 3rd year in the OHL. Their first year they weren't very good. Last year they were better, and this year they're even better. So let's hope. I don't know what the attendance is like in Hamilton, but they get a lot of empty seats at games I've been at a couple of times. So let's hope the attendance is picking up a bit for them too. So 44 points for the Bulldogs. And then the Barrie Colts are still leading their division by 2 points over Niagara. Barrie has 39 points. Niagara has 37. And the Kingston Frontenacs are in the picture in the East too. They have 38 points. They are 6 points behind Hamilton, and they also have 2 games in hand on the Bulldogs as well. So what I want to do now is bring you to CHL Top 10 rankings. Let's see what's happening with that. And I can tell you that nothing has changed on top with that. Mainly because the team on top still has not lost. Yes, incredible. They are now on an 18-game winning streak, and that is the Soo Greyhounds. 18 games in a row with a win. Wow. And what is their record? Their record is 26 wins, 3 losses, 2 overtime losses. So 3 regulation losses all year. That is all that the Soo Greyhounds have. And they deserve to be in that top ranking in the country. That is for sure. Second remains unchanged from last week too. The Moose Jaw Warriors out west. They are 26-5-1-1. They are second in the country. Sarnia Sting were 3rd last week in the country. They remain 3rd in the country. They have 24 wins, 6 losses, 2 overtime losses, and that is their record. And the fact the Sarnia Sting are in town tonight at Budweiser Gardens to take on the London Knights at the Ugly Christmas Sweater game. So that probably would be a fun game. I'm not going to it, but Sarnia is in town tonight. 4th in the CHL rankings is the Brandon Wheat Kings from out west. They move up from 7th from the week before. 23-7-0-1 is their record. Then we go to the Quebec League for 5. They were 5 last week. The Blainville Brospien Armada, 21-7-2 for them. 6 last week, 6 this week. It's the Swift Current Broncos from out west with a record of 23-7-2. And then rounding out the bottom of it, the Rimouski Oceanic. They were 10th last week. They are 7th this week with a record of 27-4. Dropping from 4th to 8th this week in the CHL Top 10 rankings is the WHL Portland Winterhawks. They are 21-9-0-1. Then rounding out the last 2 spots, the Drummondville Voyageurs from Quebec at 9 with 21-9-1-1. And at 10, the Hamilton Bulldogs are 18-7-3-3. They are still in those rankings. Honorable mentions, well, we got 3 of them. One of them is from the Ontario Hockey League too. One of them is the Kitchener Rangers with a record of 20-10-2. The Roy Noranda Huskies from the Quebec League are 18-7-4-2. And the Katy Bathurst Titan 18-8-4-2. All honorable mentions in the CHL Top 10 rankings. Wow, can I catch my breath now? So there you have it. So the London Knights are doing pretty good. how about I describe the London Knights team? I think they got a good team. They have a good team. Are they on the level of being a contender? At this point, I would say no. But certainly, if Victor Mete comes back to the London Knights after the World Juniors, I think it makes them, it elevates them a bit more than what they are now. But time will tell. But the London Knights are pretty good, and I think that I think they're capable of finishing as high as 4th, and they definitely probably can win a playoff round or maybe even 2. So we'll see what I think. That's how they. I think that's my analysis of them. Okay, so there you have it. Knights this week. For this week, 3 wins, 3 games. So pretty good. This is their second meeting coming up with the Sarnia Sting. Last time in Sarnia, they got beat by them 4-1, but they played pretty good. 4-1 loss wasn't really indicative of the game. So we'll see what happens this time around in London. So go Knights, go! And just like I do at the end of every show, I want to do the Knights dance for you. So let me bring that up. So here we go, the Knights dance here on Knights This Week. So I hope you've enjoyed the show. Please come back again. Please subscribe. Please follow me. I love subscribers. Here we go. So go Knights, go, and we'll see you next time on Knights This Week. This is your host, Jason Banks, signing off.